back to a better world. This is your host, Mitchell J. Rabin, and I'm very glad you're joining us again today. Today we're going to have another very interesting show. We are going to have a chance to learn more about reconnective healing. As many of you who have been watching this show for a long time have known, we've had Dr. Eric Pearl, the author of this book, The Reconnection, on a couple of times, and he's been continuing around the world to make a really significant impact on people everywhere through the healing and through teaching. So today he is in New York, and he has brought a gentleman who's working very closely with him, who we're sitting with right now, Kelly Woodruff, who has been traveling around the world with Eric, and they've been teaching people from all walks of life the different ways of healing through this amazing, really rather distinct method called reconnective healing. And it has now expanded into a bit of another domain, but related, which is yoga. So it's something they refer to as reconnective yoga. Kelly is really heading that up, so we're going to be learning something about that. And then, after speaking with Kelly for a bit, we'll bring Dr. Pearl on so you can hear from the horse's mouth, so to speak, a lot of what it is that's going on these days. So Kelly, great to have you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
Great.
So you were an actor, a dancer, traveling in chorus line and everything else all over, and then you went into interior design.
Right.
This seems like it's a far-flung new avenue for you. What happened?
You know, I loved what you said in your intro because you said people from all walks of life. And
Yeah.
I'm probably one of the best examples of someone who had no idea. I didn't wake up one day and say, wow, I'm going to be a healer today. That wasn't my path at all.
Yeah, right.
About 8 years ago, almost 9 now, everything was just fine. As you say, I own an architectural interior design firm. Business was great, and I have a nice place to live. I live here in New York City, great friends, and you know, I thought everything was just fine, going along just as it was supposed to. And per chance, I met someone at a party. We were doing the intro, what do you do, what do you do? You know, I own an architectural interior design firm, what do you do? And I said, well, he said,
I'm a healer.
he said, actually said, no, he said a very good thing. He said, actually, I practice a kind of healing. And I work for the company that produces seminars in that. And I said, wow, that's really LA.
Yeah, right. Subtle,
right,
indirect.
exactly that. And he said, no, would you like to do a little demo? And he did, and demonstrated. I felt something in my hand, and I said, well, you know, that's great. And perhaps what you just did is something that could indeed heal people. That's maybe true. But, you know, I grew up in the South, and we know something in the South about people who are healers, and that is you're born with that. So if you can do that, that's because you were born that way.
Yes.
And he said, actually, no. We teach people every weekend. We teach people. At that point, they had taught about 25, 30,000 people. Now we've taught almost 75,000. We teach people every weekend to do this work.
Yes.
And I sort of smiled and backed away slowly and said, great, thanks, nice to meet you. And a month later, I had some friends, what are you doing? They said, oh, we're going to this great seminar about this new kind of healing work called reconnective healing. And I said, that's weird. I met someone that did that, and they convinced me to come along, and here we are 8 years later.
Wow. So 2 connections about reconnection
Exactly.
in 2 weeks.
There are no accidents.
That's
there are
very
no
interesting.
coincidences.
So had you been familiar with things like Reiki or other types of energy healing, just in the general atmosphere? Nothing particular.
You know, as a dancer, I had experienced some different modalities. I had a Reiki practitioner, as a matter of fact, at the time, who would sort of help prop me up and get me back out on stage, you know. But I had never, even though I had experienced different work, I had never been drawn at all to do that, to do the work or to practice it. And you know, after taking that seminar the first weekend, I came home and I actually woke up on Monday morning and thought, what was that? You know, that's not me. Why did I even take that seminar? But
even after you felt
absolutely,
that way.
and you know, it kind of kept wearing on me a little bit. So I called a couple of people up and said, hey, I learned to do this thing. I'm not going to tell you anything about it. I'd like you to come over and just let me practice. I'll lie down on my couch. I didn't have a massage table or anything at the time. And both of those people had really significant experiences.
Now, there was one story that you told, I think it was of your secretary.
I have a bookkeeper,
who had
actually.
A true diagnosis, medical diagnosis that got turned around.
Yes, indeed. I've actually had two. I had 2 of my employees within the first year. One was challenged with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, who reportedly went into remission after having sessions. I had another.
How many sessions?
Well, we only ever do 1 to 3 sessions of reconnective healing. This isn't a treatment sort of modality in that you have to go back and do it again and again and again when we used to have the subsets of energy healing. This is really a true healing. So we only ever do 1 to 3. She had the full set of 3 and reportedly went into remission. Her doctor reported she had gone into remission soon thereafter.
And how long has it been since that? Well, 8 or 9 years?
Yes, absolutely.
And same thing now?
Fine.
No problem.
No. We're still seeing those sorts of things too. You have to understand, we have, as I said, we have trained 75,000 people. And we did a very interesting survey a number of years ago at one of our large mastery conferences in LA where we polled about 700 practitioners and we asked them basically 2 questions. The 2 questions we asked, the first was, what kind of healings are you seeing in your practice? And they reported about 93 or 4% reported that they were seeing the exact same kind of healings that Eric had seen or that I had seen or our senior practitioners. And these were people that had been in practice for as little as 3 months. The other question I love that we asked was, what's happened to you since you became a practitioner? And we had about 92% report that somehow that their lives had also improved.
Yes,
just by
that would
participating.
stand to reason, exactly. Right. On the one hand, you're getting so much feedback as a practitioner that's positive. That can only make you feel better and make your blood flow better.
Hey, at the very baseline, that.
At the very
baseline. Conscious level, yes.
Exactly, and on the other, you are somehow allowing this energy to stream through you, or as I know you sometimes describe it, light or information, which is also forms of energy.
Well, indeed, you have
But no matter, you are acting as a conduit.
Well, really, actually, we think of it more as a catalyst. I like the vision of, when you were in chemistry class in school and you dropped something into that beaker and it made it foam up, it made the reaction begin.
So you help people foam up.
Indeed we do. There we are. But I really think that this power of 3, this understanding that the deal, as it were, is really done between the client, the practitioner, and then your choice of word, of course, God, love, universe. In that communication, the communication goes both ways. It's not
definitely.
just to the client necessarily, but within the practitioner.
Well, the other thing is that a
well.
catalyst actually creates a new third entity. If you have a couple of a compound of 2 things, the third makes a new synthetic
exactly. A new entity, indeed.
Right.
So this entity of wholeness and health that we all participate in that equation.
So you must have been very blown away, Kelly, when you saw these changes in your staff at the architectural firm, and they too must have been rather awed by the changes happening in you.
It's I will tell you the other part of my story, which I laugh and like to recount for people to understand is, the first year that I did the work, and this is while these things were happening, I actually, every time I would close the door, I would look at it and just think, that's impossible. How is that happening? I don't believe that. And so, again, it proves the power of the work that even the practitioner in this case didn't need to actually believe in it, but rather just sort of be willing to step up, really to just show up and be in observation to allow for that process to happen. And the transformations that we saw, not just within our immediate family, as it were, but with the people that we had the opportunity and continue to have the opportunity to meet and introduce to the work, it's a phenomenon.
Are there any instances that you've observed now that you've been involved that seem to defy the use of reconnective healing?
Because reconnective healing is not directed and guided by the practitioner, but really is directed and guided always with the connection of the universe, as is appropriate for the person on the table. My belief system says the universe always has our best interest in mind. So it's not counterindicated in the way that some of the other, some of the energy modalities used to be, or some of the holistic treatments sometimes that people talk about, that sort of thing.
But I don't mean counterindicated as in contraindicated. I mean rather where someone had, let's say, a condition of cancer or arthritis or even a very severe migraine headache. And the application, the catalytic relationship, was not catalyzing the result that you sought.
Oh, now listen, we don't ever make any promises or guarantees. Because we have to understand that. And again, in my belief system says that we all are going through our challenges to learn the lessons that we need to learn. if it's appropriate for reconnective healing to be the thing that allows the challenge to drop away, it will. And if it's not, it won't. Just like the same with any sort of treatment,
believe me,
any treatment that we have.
I don't think God makes any promises except that you're going to have a hell of a ride.
Right, exactly, for sure.
So I understand that. But have you come up to those situations in your 8 or 9 years?
You always, I think the question you're asking me
it would be reasonable that you would.
It seems like
it would
the
be
question you're
shocking
asking
if you wouldn't.
is does everyone get the healing they come for? Is really the what it sounds
that's
like.
a good
you're
interpretation.
Asking. But it's no, they don't necessarily demonstrate always what they think they need.
Right.
But what we recognize is that they always get what they need.
Right. That's a
whether
very
they
old,
know it or not. And it's
ancient
true.
adage,
Which
is probably true.
Right. Exactly. That's why
Even
it's
though
an
I
ancient
don't
adage.
like it very much.
Right.
That's why it's managed to get ancient.
Right.
Well, listen. Just tell us a word or two, if you would, about because we're going to bring Dr.
Sure.
Pearl on, but I want to hear a little bit about Reconnective Yoga.
Quickly, it's a very easy, simple thing. If we understand that reconnective healing connects us to the fullness of the universe, right? We understand the ancient science of yoga means union, about connection, about integrating the aspects of the self and indeed with the universe. So here you have this new science of reconnective healing, this ancient science of yoga. What more natural marriage is there than these two things? And what we found out was that when we introduced the reconnective healing frequencies consciously into a yoga practice, it makes for an expanded experience.
Wow.
So that's what we do.
Does it allow for greater flexibility
Everything
of the
you
joints
can,
and limbs? And
everything you can imagine, every aspect of yoga.
that
You know, in the West, we always think of yoga as a physical practice. It's not as originally conceived. But the physical practice is deepened. The meditation is deepened. All aspects of the practice seem to be expanded. We've taught now some version of it for about 3.5 years. We have now seven certified Reconnective Yoga practitioners, teachers around the world who are teaching classes daily. And it seems just about everyone who comes into one of our classes leaves saying, wow, what was that? What was that? That was amazing.
That is cool.
Yeah,
well,
very.
I wish you a lot of luck on your continued journey
Thank you very
with
much.
this. And
Thank you.
Hope you get all the more reconnected.
Yes, indeed,
So,
indeed. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, pleasure.
All right, great.
And now we are seated with Dr. Eric Pearl, the author of The Reconnection. And Dr. Pearl is the man responsible for having spread this incredible work around the world. I mean, literally every single continent. As his colleague Kelly was just saying, they have now taught over 75,000 people how to do this. And we want to learn something more about how this works and about the scientific evidence they have behind it, because Eric has brought this into laboratories in different parts of the world for examination, for analysis, and the results are really quite remarkable. So, Eric, a pleasure to have you on again, my friend.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so glad.
Now, I know that we're going to get settled into a conversation in a moment, so I've decided to do that thing that you requested.
Which is?
Which is when Kelly was speaking about reconnective yoga.
Yes.
I want,
all
right, if you want me to.
A demo?
I just have to back up for 1 second. But here's what happens. I have never in my life practiced yoga. I don't have the
chutzpah.
No, what I don't really have is the savlanut, the patience. I don't.
Okay.
Or the discipline. But watch what we can do now from the work that Kelly's doing. It doesn't take more than one session. If I've got room in this chair to balance myself.
Don't hurt yourself.
I'm not going to hurt myself. Okay. It's just I don't know if the chair is.
It's a half lotus.
Wide enough for me.
It's a full
it's a full
lotus.
Look.
Can we get that?
I don't know. I'm not your camera person.
That is wonderful. Bravo.
Yeah? Isn't that cool? I can stay in this position forever. What's so fascinating about reconnective yoga is that within a session, when a reconnective yoga trained facilitator works with you, people who have been striving to get into, I believe the word is the asanas, right, for decades, not just years, decades, instantly open up this range of motion. If this chair were a little larger so I could balance myself, you would see that my feet would actually be out to here. But I'm falling off of this seat.
Also.
it grows feet also.
Incredible. No, I'm kidding aside, that's amazing, and muzzle tough. I mean, you just got into a position that you never thought you could.
Well, no. I never
Let me
thought
ask.
that I would. But it's not about me. It's not about me. Nothing
I know.
about this is about me
The person.
or any of us singularly. Think of the gifts that yoga brings. So as more people step into that space,
Yeah.
more people you become more centered in your thought, in your
Movement.
movement, but I'm thinking just in your presence. Therefore, in your decisions, your choices, trickle up to who's in government, who's making decisions of whether to go out and kill each other or whether to go to
Are
the
you
table
doing
and
any
meet and
trainings
talk.
in Washington, D.C.?
Probably.
When the Reconnective Yoga takes place, Eric, is each person that comes into the room for the class touched physically first, or is it just an atmosphere?
It's a non-touch.
Is it an atmosphere in the room that the teacher establishes? How would you describe it?
When you come to Reconnective Yoga or a Reconnective Healing seminar,
Yeah.
something changes in the room. The researchers, we now have about 5 different researchers internationally studying the same phenomenon, and I'll explain it, but it's called conditioned space. There are a couple other words for it, duplexing or coupling, but it's generally referred to as the space becomes conditioned. I'll give you an example. Dr. William Tiller, who's the author of
I know
approximately
Dr.
a dozen
Tiller.
books,
Sure.
okay, and maybe about 350 papers that have been published
Stanford
in
University,
Stanford University,
emeritus
professor, emeritus, absolutely. He's including the Tiller-Einstein model of negative entropy and all these, he's way up there.
Oh, yeah. He was in What the Bleep, et cetera.
Right. He came one day to one of our seminars. I'm wondering why. Well, actually, he didn't. He sent one of his researchers over. And the researcher did measurements of the room while we were working, before, during, and after.
Of what?
Well, I'm not exactly sure the technical terms, but what he refers to it as is excess free thermodynamic energy. Now, I know that sounds complicated. It's really simple. He break it down. Excess means more than the normal. Free means flying around freely.
Those part we got.
Thermodynamic means temperature related.
Surely.
And energy means energy.
Heat
So-
changes is really what it is.
Okay, so
He's
excess
measuring
free
heat changes in the room and the
thermodynamic
quantity
energy.
of the heat.
Okay. So you ready for this?
Yeah.
So he told us afterwards that his people must have made a mistake, or the equipment must have been faulty that day, or the seminar was
Sounds like a doctor.
or the seminar was being held over some kind of a power generator. So they went back to check the area. There was no power generator, and the equipment worked just fine. So we came not to one, but to 2 subsequent seminars and got the same results. Then he wasn't sure that he could publish them because the results were so outrageous sounding. So he worked with Dr. Gary Schwartz.
University
and worked,
of Arizona.
Right. Worked in conjunction with Dr. Konstantin Karatkov.
Oh, I know well.
St.
He's been on
Petersburg,
this,
Russia.
exact show, yeah.
Right. And I'm not sure if he's also worked with Dr. Glenn Ryan right here
Yes,
from
I
New
know
York or
Glenn.
not
Yeah.
on this, but I know that Glenn has done some DNA studies with some of the others that I'll tell you about in a minute. Now, what they found was in energy healing, Reiki, Juraj, Shin, Qigong, Mahjong, Beijing, Alpha, Beta, Delta, Gamma, 1, 2, 3, XYZ, whatever names we come up, quantum this, mattress that.
Okay, I got the message.
Those are subsets of
Mahjong.
energy.
My grandmother would be rolling in her grave
Yeah,
if you
probably.
said this.
Maybe
Yes.
she is. The dice. Okay.
I won again.
Those are subsets of the energy that's been here. But this seems to go beyond the subsets of the energy, beyond the entirety of the energy. It's a transmodality. It transcends technique and modality into a spectrum of energy, light and information. The energy healing techniques, everything will bring about small results. in excess free thermodynamic energy. That's how it's measurable.
However,
They said this couldn't possibly happen unless the temperature of the room was heated to over 300 degrees centigrade, which is the equivalent to approximately 576 degrees Fahrenheit, which obviously means that everyone would be dead if the room didn't burst into flame. This is conditioned
Dr.
space.
Tiller's
Dr. Tiller,
conclusions?
verified by the other researchers in single studies and in combined studies.
I'm just trying to grok what that really means. I mean, I get the implications that the higher the heat, the greater the potential healing on one hand.
Maybe, but you don't feel the heat. If anything, sometimes when you work with it, you feel coolness.
That's the next
You know?
piece, which is how is that degree of heat contained?
I
So
don't
it's
know
not
whether there actually is that
perceptible.
degree of heat or what he's saying. I know that what he's saying includes that the results couldn't come about without that degree of heat. Wait, let me tell you something else. Shift. DNA. You know, we now know today what we didn't know until just fairly recently.
I know, you're talking about epigenetics.
No, I'm not even talking about Bruce Lipton's work, which I love.
Yes.
And he is one of the most gifted, brilliantly natural teachers on this planet. He's phenomenal. And I love his work. But I want to tell you about this
But
first.
I wasn't even referring to him, but that's okay.
Well, yeah, but isn't Bruce
Only.
Isn't Bruce credited
Critical.
with the term of
He's at the
epigenetics?
crossroads. I don't know about that, no, but
Oh, okay,
he
I
is
thought it was.
certainly a formidable leader in it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We now know today from the work of Dr. Fritz Popp in Germany,
In Germany, yeah. The
that
work with the light.
the DNA in each of our cells, as Lynn McTaggart, one of our mutual friends, talks about in my favorite book of hers so far, which is called The Field, but she's got a new book coming out, The Bond, which I didn't read yet,
We
but
just
I
had
will.
her on for it.
Oh, very cool.
Fabulous.
Yeah. And a lot of fun.
And it will, exactly.
She's a lot of
lovely.
fun, yeah.
And her work will actually help to corroborate some of the subjects in the
She's been
reconnection.
involved in some of the research with the reconnection. But anyway, we know from Dr. Fritz Popp that the cells in each of our, in our bodies, each cell emitting DNA emits a specific level of light. Simply put, when our health is diminishing, that light is dimming. When our health is coming back up, that light is coming back
are lit
up. Right. So the DNA we now have, we're going on to our fifth and international study confirming that reconnective healing actually restructures, or the word I use is reconnects, the DNA. Now, I have been saying this since 1993,
Yes.
but only in the past maybe 3 years or so have we had the scientific data and multiple studies confirming the data that this happens in a way it doesn't happen with energy healing, because this is more than energy healing. It happens because this is energy, light, and information, and the light seems to remind us of our natural optimum
Nature.
light level. But you know what I think I should do real quickly?
What?
I think that people should understand what they might be walking into at the seminar if they would like to learn how to do this work, because this work is not about any one special person, it's about you being able to do this. The basic thing that will occur when Kelly is teaching is that Saturday and Sunday is a real working seminar. In other words, don't come if you think we're all going to sit around, hold hands, om, and sing Kumbaya, my Lord. It will not happen that way. There's a stage in the center of the room. There's chairs on one side, massage tables
Everyone
on the
will
other.
sing independently.
In
And then you come together at the
tones, right. Into
What
one,
happens,
into one
Eric?
big,
What
oh
happens?
my God. Right. So what happens is
Followed
Kelly
by
will
Oy Vez
demonstrate,
Beer.
really, Kelly will demonstrate some portion of the work from the stage. Then we'll all go to massage tables, depending on what we're doing, either in groups of 2 or in groups of 4. He and the international team of trained teaching assistants will come around and begin to show you how to feel for this, how to find it, and your feedback will be you'll start to see the person's body physically move on the table. He'll show you how to locate or discover a different way of feeling this, and you'll start to see their eyes rapidly move back and forth, their tiny involuntary muscles in their face move. And as you start to correlate, when I'm over here, I feel this, I see that. When I'm over here, I feel this and I see that. You begin to recognize your distinct role in this work. We'll go back to the chairs, discuss a little more of the philosophy, get better understanding.
I want to interrupt
Yes.
you. It occurs to me, we only have a moment left,
Right.
and if people want to take the workshop, certainly they'll watch this and they'll go
To
to,
the
your
reco-
website and all of that.
reconnection.com.
We'll have it all over our show.
Absolutely. But
However,
can I add this last sentence?
wait a minute. I
Okay.
want to please.
Okay.
I want to get this across because this is, I think, is important. If you are having the effect on the DNA as you are, and we understand that there is a deep relationship between DNA and language, you can be bringing in language and suggestions.
A language of light.
Well, that's one. Another is actually verbal.
Yes.
But tell me more about that in our remaining moments.
Okay, I just want to
But
finish
you get my
with-
message, right?
I get it.
Yeah.
I just want to finish with, I want you to understand that by the end of one weekend, you don't need weeks or years. You'll be able to do anything and everything in the way of healing that I can do, and you'll be able to do anything and everything in the way of healing that any human being on this planet can do, whether they were raised by monks in a cave in a mountaintop in Tibet and fed
Or
grains
not.
of seeds, each one flown in the beak of an individual bird. Language.
Amazing.
That will be our next topic for the next show. How's
Please
that?
come back.
I'd love to.
Eric, great to see you.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Beautiful work you're doing. Please keep it up. It's a
Thanks.
true gift to the planet. This is Mitchell J. Rabin for A Better World. Thanks so much for joining us. And indeed, go to thereconnection.com. Learn more about what this is because it really is a gift. So many people are being healed and so many people's lives are being improved. Thanks so much for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.